Well, hello everybody. In this episode, we are going to be talking about your washing machine box and pretty much how to rough it in, because there really isn't a whole lot of trim out on this. Now, it's pretty simple, it's pretty easy to install, but there is a lot of codes on this you got to pay attention to. So let's go ahead and talk about them. Now, if you've watched any of my videos, you're probably saying, man, this guy spends a lot of time down on the ground rolling around on the floor. Well, it's part of being a plumber. You're going to be on your knees, you're going to be crawling through crawl spaces, you're going to get dirty. It's just part of it. Now, back to our wash machine box here. Now, back in the day when we were using more rigid piping systems such as copper or that old nasty galvanized, you just had pipes coming up with a spigot on the end of it. Maybe there's a little piece of heavy gauge copper wire bracing it off to the wall. And then you had a black iron or galvanized pipe just sticking up over there for your drain line that you put your hose in. And they called that a standpipe. They still call this a standpipe. Well, when we made that transition over to this more flexible tubing and the plastic pipes, you needed something a little more stable. So they came up with these plastic little wash machine boxes. And they're really neat, they're really easy to install. They come with these little wings that clip into the side of the box, and you pick out which one you want and you anchor it down to the stud. It's pretty easy. And the water lines, of course, are pretty easy. This one's PEX ready, and it's got the arresters on it for to prevent that water hammer, because a wash machine does have those fast closing valves on it, and it can really get to water hammering. But like I said, the water part's pretty easy, and this standpipe deal is what's got all the codes on it. So the deal is your standpipe has to be 18 inches tall. It has to be 18 inches up. Now, if you go back, flip a couple more pages in that code book, and you get back to the trap part, it says that, and this goes for tubs and showers and all kinds of things, this P-trap cannot be located lower than 24 inches from that fixture. So now you've got a range there. This standpipe can only be somewhere between 24 and 18 inches long. So most plumbing companies have standards, and our standard says 20 inches. So we're going to do ours at 20 inches, which is right there in the middle of that, that 24 and 18. Now let's talk about this next part. You're going to have to vent this thing, and there's two ways to vent it, and I'm going to show you the preferred method here. This is an active vent just going up through the ceiling here, which is tied in here with this sanitary tee. Now, as you see, we went through the stud wall here, so we had to bore some holes. This isn't the exterior wall. All exterior walls are load bearing, so we had to put our stud shoes on there. Now, the deal with this P-trap, you cannot take a P-trap and go right into that sanitary tee like that. What you have done is created an S-trap. It goes whoop, and S-traps have a bad habit of sucking themselves dry, and if they do that, you start getting stinking stuff up in your house. So what the code on this, so that it's not an S-trap, is whatever the diameter of your P-trap is, it has to be twice that length apart. So this is a 2-inch P-trap, so 4 inches. You have to have 4 inches, and we've got a good bit more than 4 inches there. Now you want to be careful. You don't really want to go too far, and you want to watch your pitch, because this right here is called the weir. This is the bottom or the invert of your P-trap, and you got one over here too, and then you got the top, and this is in the code. You do not want the weir of your P-trap, so there's a pipe in between here, you don't want the weir of your P-trap to be above the top of this, because you're creating an S-trap as well, and you can't suck this thing dry. So you want to keep that thing a quarter to an eighth bubble. Like here, you can't even barely see the fall on that. So you don't create those S-traps. And that's pretty much most of the code and stuff there. You just got to watch out for that standpipe. Put it at 20, anywhere from 18 to 24 inches on your standpipe. And if you're using a 2-inch pipe, this arm over here is gonna have to be greater than 4 inches, but watch that elevation. Here's kind of the second method. Remember I said there was two methods. There's that direct or passive vent that goes up through your roof. And then we've got this setup here, which is using an air admittance valve, which is a little valve. Some people call them a Studer vent, some people call them auto vent. Those are brand names. But basically it's a little thing that it'll open up to let air draw in, and then it slams closed anytime any kind of pressure puts on it. That way you're not getting sewer gases up into your house. But it's really only going to handle that the vacuum, that negative pressure. It's not there for positive pressure. So sometimes you might get a little gurgling and stuff. These are really for, oh, it's not even glued in. How about that? There's your little air admittance valve. But that's it. If you can't get through the ceiling, if you've got a beam you can't drill through or something like that, you could use this kind of setup. Now, we're still dealing with the same codes on the standpipe, 18 to 24 inches, and then you're still dealing with that code on the 2-inch P-trap where you've got to be twice the diameter. So you've got to be at least 4 inches coming over. We did go through our wall, so we stud shoot it. But instead of our vent going straight up through the ceiling, we vented back over and then up to catch that air admittance valve. But that's kind of it. That's the two ways to do it. Let me show you how to trim it out. The trim out phase of your washing machine box. If you see here, there's these little knockouts. Now you can use either one of these, or you can flip it upside down. It comes with a little plug thing here that you can put in the bottom, or however you want to do it. But you could flip this box over and have your drain in the center with your valves hanging down the other way if you were coming from up top. But most of the time it's going to look like this. Now these boxes do come with a little sticker. But you see this little orange sticker here. It actually says knockout here for your drain. Your rough-in guy is supposed to put his little sticker on there so you know which one to knock out. Because if you knock out the wrong side, you're just going to have a hole there. And something I've seen homeowners do a lot is if that wrong side is knocked out, they'll stick that drain hose in there, and the first time they run their wash machine, they dump a whole bunch of water in their wall. And those are fun. But there should be a sticker there. If not, if it's the Studer vent style, and I'm going to show you what that one is. But to get this out, you're going to have to take a flathead screwdriver and put it down in here and tap, tap, tap to pop that out. But if it's not marked, what I always used to do was I always had a sheetrock saw in my toolbox, and I would work it down in between the sheetrock and see if I tapped a pipe with that sheetrock saw without messing up the sheetrock. And then you could tap this side and you wouldn't feel a pipe, so you'd know that it was that side. But most of you rough-in guys, especially if you're doing it, mark it, put an X on it with a pin or something. But yeah, you don't want to knock out the wrong one. Now this box with your air admittance valve, of course, see that's not glued in. If you see, the guys marked a V and a D here with their pin instead of using the stickers, and that stands for the vent side and the drain side. Now if you know it's a Studer vent setup, you've gone in there with that sheetrock saw and you've bumped those pipes and you know there's two in there, but you can't figure out which one's the drain and which one's the vent. Now there's a P-trap on it, so you've tested, so your P-trap's got water in it. You can take a piece of PEX, some flexible pipe, and shove it down in there, and then when you get down to the bottom of it, you can blow on it. And if it bubbles, you're in the P-trap, you're on that drain side. If it doesn't bubble, you're in the vent. And I see a lot of that. I'll get a call that there's sewer gas coming up in the house, and you go in there and of course you can smell it, where you can stick that pipe down in and blow on it, and if it doesn't bubble, that means they put the thing on the wrong side. And then of course you could just unscrew this guy and get you another adapter, glue it onto the right side, and then put that, and then you can just leave that glued in over there. But that's probably the hardest part of trimming it out. You're going to get that screwdriver, you're going to tap up under there, and you're going to kind of pry this thing out till you get your pliers on there and break it the rest of the way out of there. Alright, the final part of trimming out your washing machine box is going to be this little trim plate. Now this comes with the box when you buy it, so you're not going to leave this on the job site at your rough-in phase, because it can get broken, damaged, somebody's going to pull it off of there and throw it on the ground or whatever, and you're going to lose it. So you're going to want to take this with you. Now don't leave your trim plate rolling around in the back of your truck, because it can get to where it gets grinding down on some dirt and stuff, and it'll get all nasty looking, and it's really hard to clean up, and this is a brand new house or a remodel you just did, and you're going to want this to look pretty because this is the trim. Yeah, you don't want to get any red clay mud. That stuff won't come off of these. So take this back to your shop or wherever, put it on a shelf. Maybe you got a couple of them sitting there waiting on those trim outs to roll up. This thing is marked hot and cold, and the manufacturers normally have their little name on it, so you want to make sure that's in the right place, and it does have some little teeth. Now, the depth of sheetrock can vary a little bit, so it is adjustable, but it locks in there pretty good, and it's not going anywhere. At this point, you're pretty much done, unless you're going to be installing the wash machine, and then you'd hook your hoses up and put your drain line in. But most new construction stuff, that's done by appliance people, or the homeowner does that. But there you go. That's how to do a wash machine box. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to have some more coming out, and thanks a lot.